Hi there everybody, it's Martin Twycross bringing you another live stream. I'm sure for those who watch the channel, you know my channel is all about bringing you practical, down-to-earth teachings on mediumship and development without the fluff. So the live stream is an opportunity for you to come in a live environment and ask me any questions you have about to ask you any questions. So yeah, the live stream is an opportunity for you to come and ask me any questions you like about mediumship and development, and I'll answer them as to the best of my knowledge and the best of my ability. So I'm hoping that the stream quality and the sound quality is good. If it is, please do type in the chat box. If you have questions, you can now start loading them as well into the chat as well. Hi, Angeline. So since my last live stream, I've uploaded 4 videos onto the channel. I've put 2 videos on Sitting in the Power as part of a series on Sitting in the Power. First one was how to do it, and the second one was looking at reasons why when you first start doing Sitting in the Power it may not be working. If you've not seen them, do check them out. I also uploaded an address on my story where I pay tribute to 2 workers for spirit who helped me upon my journey. If you're interested in knowing what brought me to spiritualism and mediumship, then check out that address and that will give you a lot of insight and clues as well. And my latest video on the channel is Children in Spirit, part of a Children in Spirit series, and it's all about life in the spirit world. There will be 3 from the Children in Spirit, maybe a 4th one eventually, but I'll be uploading them over the coming weeks. So do check them out, just as there's 4 in the Sitting in the Power series, 3 uploaded, 1 more still to come, which will be the next one this week. So yeah, so they are being added. I have launched a new course for anyone who may be interested. The new course is called Better Private Readings. It's 4 2-hour classes, and also it's a very reasonable £60, as all my courses are. So we'll be doing a great deep dive into private readings with that course. If that's of interest to you, then do come along and we can get into that as well. So the live stream, as I say, is an opportunity for you to come along, to ask questions, to pick my brains. I do have super chat and super stickers enabled, so if you want to contribute, you're more than welcome. I don't charge for this, but if you want to make a donation, that's always greatly appreciated. If you look at the very top of the chat as well, you'll see there is a pinned chat there with details of my PayPal me on there, so you can click on that should you wish to make a donation. All donations are greatly appreciated. If you do want to get your question answered sooner than the other questions in the queue, then you can ask it through Super Chat. I know Super Chat limits your questions, so if your question is long, you can also then in the Super Chat just say, please answer my question, and I'll check it out and find it for you in the chat box. So without any further ado, I'm going to get into it. Now, what I will do as well is, just in case anybody wants to ask me a lot of questions, what I will do is I'm going to put a cap on the number of questions you can ask as well, so that we don't have any people dominating the chat. So that's the idea, because if one person brings 20 questions, then it's not very fair to other people. So hopefully we'll have a few more joining us soon. So Angeline, your question: how do you deal with sitters that keep saying yes when they should say no? It seems no matter how much I educate the sitter, I still have sitters who will not answer properly. Now, for me, I always train people that you're not helping the medium if you say yes. If you're being nice to the medium, how are you helping them? If you're saying yes when the answer is no, how are you helping them? So it's about education. The more teachers there are out there asking sitters to answer up honestly and training students to answer up honestly, the better. Now, if you're an absolute beginner, I do get it that somebody saying no to you is hard and it's going to knock you out your power. It's going to make it hard for you to work. But once we get to a certain stage in our development, once we get to a certain point in our development, then absolutely, then that's when we need to have honest sitters, whether that's exchange sitting students or whether that's sitters that you bring in. And if you're having sitters come to you educate them. That's the key. You need to say to them, answer me up, yes, no, don't know, but don't feed me. But equally, you know, we can sense as mediums when they're saying yes to us and it's not quite right. I know when I'm working and someone's saying yes to me and the energy doesn't feel right. And I'll say, are you sure? You sure that makes sense? Because I feel I'm not quite getting it right. So we got to watch the energy as well. We got to do our best, absolute best, to educate the sitters to do it. So what more can you do other than educating them? What more can you do other than psychically sensing into their replies? And if it doesn't feel right, saying, are you sure I'm getting that right? You know, and what you really want to get is honest sitters. If you're doing practice sittings, exchange sittings, make it a condition of the sitting that the sitter is honest with you. Because if they're not, if they're just going to say yes to you or be nice to you, how are you going to learn? I've been to classes and courses where everybody just wants to help each other so much and they're just so nice to each other and no one ever really learns. So yeah. So hopefully that answers that question. Next question. What do you do when you get to the end of a reading and your sitter tells you that you had 3 to 4 communicators when you thought you were working with 2 at most? Again, why didn't the sitter say something? Train the sitter. It's, you know, the problem we have is what, you know, I can't understand the mentality of somebody who's having a sitting, especially if they're a student. It's even worse if they're a student. But if that doesn't fit, but you need to check, I've got this information, does that fit this person? And if the answer's no, then you look and say, well, is there somebody else it would make sense with? Yes. But you've got to seek the feedback. You've got to say, does that fit this one I'm linking with? And if you don't, then guess what? You are going to have that scenario at the end. Like, I know some people who do a sitting who just talk, never check their evidence, just talk at the sitter. And then at the end, you're going to get all sorts of things like this coming up because that is not helpful. You have to basically seek evidence, seek the confirmation and validation as you go. If you don't, you end up with trouble. So I can't understand the mentality of someone who wouldn't say, well, that's not, you've got my dad, but that information doesn't fit me dad. That should be pretty obvious, unless you're not giving them the chance to, or you're not asking them, are you understanding this with dad? So you've said it's dad. Does that make sense with dad? No. Okay. There's your next part. That's important to recognize. So yeah, it's all down to training. If this is happening with students, and it's even worse, as I say. Next question. What do you say when your sitter shows up to a private Zoom sitting and the room they are in is busy and you know they're not in the right space? I don't know quite what you mean by that question, to be honest. I don't know if you can clarify that for me. Because if a private sitter shows up to a Zoom sitting, I got you. So the room they're in is busy. I've got you. So they're coming to a sitting, but the TV's on in the background. There's other people talking. I would ask them that you need to go somewhere private. I can't work with background noise. I can't work in this environment. You know, if you were coming to see me, you wouldn't be having a TV turned on in the corner. If you're coming to see me, you wouldn't have your other family members running around the room. Of course not. So again, the condition of your sitting is that it is done in those right scenarios, in that right situation. And if they don't want to do it in that situation, if they're not going to help you out, then you've got to say, I'm sorry, I can't do the sitting until you go somewhere where we can do it, which is private. The whole part of a private reading is it should be private on both ends, not just private on the medium's end, but private on the recipient's, the sitter's end. Absolutely. That's what you need. That's what you need. Okay, so I'm going to go to Omar, your question. I'm working very hard on sitting the power. I start out by feeling them. Now I feel like I can hear them telepathically. The answers just sort of feel right. Am I on the right track? So sitting in the power has got nothing whatsoever to do with communication with spirit. Nothing whatsoever. So sitting in the power is a tool where we blend and we just be. we be in the presence of spirit. So I do talk about that in my last video on five reasons why sit in the power may not be working, because sit in the power has nothing to do whatsoever with communication. We don't communicate with spirit unless we're doing a reading. You know, I don't ever connect to spirit looking for information from spirit unless there's a sitter in front of me, or unless I'm on a platform working in front of an audience. Because why would I do that? Because spirit aren't going to come close to me and work with me when there's no one to take it, because it doesn't make any sense. So sitting in the power is where we unfold the potentials from within. Sitting in the power is where we spend time with spirit so they get to know our energy. Sitting in the power is where we make that commitment to spirit. And when we think nothing's happening, there's a lot happening. I'll talk about that in my next class on sitting in the power. That will be released actually this coming week, this Thursday or Friday. My next video will go out on that. So the problem you've got is any information you get during sitting in the power, you have no validation whatsoever. You know, you think you're hearing people talk to you, but there's no proof whatsoever. There's no validation thereof. You know, can you blend with your guides? Yes, you can to a degree, but it's not for communication. It may be for guidance or inspiration only. But again, blending with the guides is, for me, it's what I would call a treat. 20 times I sit in the power, it's for sitting in the power, it's for blending with spirit, it's for making myself connected to spirit. Maybe 1 out of 20, I might ask for some guidance from spirit, or I might want to ask my guides to blend close. That's the treat. But 19 out of 20, no. It's just this regular, straightforward routine. So no, the problem you've got is, as I say, where anything you get with sit in the power, no validation, you can't really check for sure. So if you're going to do mediumship, you have to have an audience, or you have to have a sitter. You'll have to be doing it in a practice session, in a circle with another person in front of you. And then when you get the information, you check it. If you feel you hear a voice, you check it. And then we see, is it accurate? If it's not accurate, then the answer is no, it's not quite accurate. It's not right. So that's how you find you've got to seek your validation in the real scenario. And discipline. Mediums, we have to be disciplined. Don't ever try and do mediumship unless it's the right time, unless it's in a circle, unless it's in a private sitting, unless it's on platform. No other time for me is appropriate for me to do mediumship. Spirit will sometimes come to me on a day I'm working, and I'll feel them come close to me, and it's like, no, I recognize you're there. I feel your energy. I know it's mum coming for somebody later. Come back in when I'm working. Strict boundaries. That's what we want. That's what we want. Next question. What do you say to a sitter who says yes to everything because they want all their departed family members present in the reading? Well, do you know, what I'm getting from this is that there's a lot of crazy sitters out there, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because, you know, spirit come through one at a time. They've got to be understood. They can't just say yes in the hope that you're going to bring something more through. And again, it's about education. If you find out afterwards, you've got to talk to them and educate them. So hopefully they'll not do it to anybody else. And quite frankly, if sitters don't do what I need sitters to do and don't follow my instructions, then I don't really want to do readings for them, to be honest. Because if people won't be a good sitter, then it makes life hard for you. For example, I've had people come to me for sittings who won't even answer me yes or no, who just sit with their arms folded. And I say, I'm giving you this information, can you understand? And they're not answering. And they're saying, I was told never to answer up a medium. And I say, in that case, the sitting has to stop now. We can't go any further. Unless you're going to validate what I'm getting. I'm not prepared just to talk at you for 40 minutes and get no feedback whatsoever, because that's not how it works. So again, I would terminate it. Here's your money back, or I'm not charging you. Please, you'll need to see another medium, but other mediums won't enjoy it neither. So yeah, we've got to train the sitters. Absolutely. Okay, Paul, sitting in the power most days each week, focusing on feeling than those random thoughts, but I don't seem to get any signs yet. 6 months since done. Should I focus more on visual imagination? So when we're sitting in the power, you're doing two things. First of all, you're sitting in your own power, your own energy. Secondly, you're sitting in the presence of spirit. You shouldn't be getting communication, remember? You're not doing it to get anything really. All you're doing is to experience the energy of your own soul and the energy of spirit, to make the time to be present in that energy, to recognize that you are spirit. So you can get a huge range of things. And again, in my next Sitting in the Power video that's already recorded, it's going to go out this week, I talk about these exact things. Too many people want an experience. Too many people are saying, I get this, I get that. Should I get it? Should I get that? Somebody else I know gets to see these wonderful colors. Should I get that? They get faces. I don't. They get colors. I don't. They get the hand on their shoulder. I don't. Should I get it? And the answer is, what you get when you sit in the power is unique to you. What you get when you're in the presence of spirit is unique to you. So that's important to recognize. So don't go seeking anything. Don't worry about anything. But sitting in the power, as I say in the videos as well, it's not a beginner's meditation. I've got no idea what level you're at. But generally in the UK, we start beginners off in what we call awareness circles. We get them to do lovely guided visualizations. We take them on a little journey. We get them to work with their psychic senses, because that's the stage we have to work through when we're unfolding our psychic senses. If you do your very first meditation as sitting in the power, chances are you'll be bored with it. Chances are it will not help you as much, because you've got what I call an exploratory mind of a beginner, where you want to be doing things and being excited by things. But if you're going straight to sitting in the power too soon, it won't necessarily help you. For me, sitting in the power is what I call an intermediate meditation. It's the development meditation for mediumship, but we have to have done some work on the psychic first. So I don't know if that helps you as well, gives you any insights or clues. But what I would say is, don't look for feelings, don't look for visuals, because none of that helps you. All you should be seeking to feel is, do you feel more in the presence of spirit than you do in the presence of your own soul? That's what we're seeking. We're seeking more in the presence of spirit than we are in our own soul energy. Mainly because there is a great energy there in the presence of spirit. They can be very, very similar. So yeah. And Paul, you said you find it rude to ask spirit for evidence, being such a beginner. Well, I don't know if you were part of my Getting Better Evidence course, but I went through it in a great deal of detail then, that when we first start, if we haven't developed ourselves to the point whereby we can just blend and surrender and receive a huge influx of information from the spirit world and let them do their thing, then we have to ask them for information. We have to probe their energy. Who are you? What's your relationship to this person? How did you pass? Show me your personality. Make me aware of your personality. It's almost like a 20 questions in the early stages, moving through all the way till we get to point in surrendering. And in my Getting Better Evidence course, I go through that process of how we move from being quite in control with questions to how we relinquish and surrender. So yes. So Angeline, thank you for the donation. That's much appreciated. Tony, how do you handle the sitter's disappointment if you can't bring someone through, the loved one they wanted to hear from? Do you set the expectations with them before you start? Absolutely. I will. If anyone ever contacts me for a sit-in and says, I need this one, no. I cannot guarantee anybody. I use what I call the radio analogy. The radio analogy, many of you will be familiar with it. If you can imagine the spirit world as like a radio. I'm going to try and illustrate it for you. I hope this is going to work. So, if you imagine that's like a radio station here along the bottom, the beginner shown in red only covers a small range of wavelengths. Each individual spirit has their own, if you like, unique frequency or wavelength. And then an intermediate covers a wider range in blue. And then the green, which I don't know really shows up at the very top, an experienced medium can cover a huge range. So the point is, none of us know what range we cover. So that's important to recognize. And secondly, the spirit who comes forward may not be on your wavelength, may not be a good vibrational match for you. And in that scenario, you can't link with them. The next point to consider is the person's got to want to come forward from spirit. They've got free will. They may be busy. They may have something else on at that moment in time that they can't come. They may not want to come. For whatever reason, they may not want to come. Again, I've got another video on YouTube, Why Has Your Loved One Not Come Through? It's worth watching that to look at all the various reasons why. But I never tell anybody I can guarantee anybody whatsoever. I always explain it's experimental. We'll try. We'll see what happens. So, but I always say to everybody, keep an open mind. You may get the person who you're not expecting. But if someone's got a very fixed view and they only want this person and the conditions aren't quite right for that person to come through, then they can block it by not being willing to be open to anybody else. For example, I've done sittings where the person just wants one and I bring through from somebody else. No, send them back. Don't want that one. Get somebody else. No, don't want that one. Send them back. I only want this one. What that person's doing is making it hard for you as a medium to get that one, because maybe the other people had to come in first to get the conditions stable. Maybe the people had to come in first to sow the foundations, sow the seeds before the right person comes forward. But in rejecting it, you're going to block it. And for example, say mum comes to see me. Mum wants to hear from her son. Her son's in spirit, passed traumatically, suddenly. She desperately wants to hear from her son. But if the son comes forward, the emotions on both parties of connecting can be so intense that the link can collapse. So what happens? So your sitter's mum comes forward, which is the grandmother of the son. So grandma of son comes forward, and then she gets it all going, and then son can come in once it's all stable and it will work. So that happens quite regularly with mediumship, what we call enabling communicators. So I always say to somebody as well, it may not be the person you want, but go with it, because hopefully we can get there in the end. And occasionally, if I know for sure I've not got the person wants, I might say, I know there's somebody else you would like. If you want to tell me some information, who it is, I will see if I can get it. It's my son. Okay, let me see if I can open. And then I'd ask specifically, son, if you're there, please come forward for mother. And if they come forward, they do. If they don't, they don't. And there's no guarantees with that whatsoever. There is no guarantees. And you know, it will work occasionally, but sometimes it won't. And it depends on your degree of experience. If you're inexperienced as a medium, it's going to be quite hard. If you're highly experienced as a medium, then yeah, you've got a greater chance of getting them. But even the most experienced mediums can't get everybody all the time. It's just not possible. So how do you handle the sitter's disappointment? Prepare them for it. How do you handle the sitter's disappointment? Explain why it can happen. And that will help you. Next question, Caroline. Sit in the power. Should I feel the same all the time? Sometimes I feel blissful and time has flown. Other times I feel internal vibrations and a bit emotional, which is correct. All of it. Sit in the power, you will feel something different. Generally, every time you sit, it's never go. It's like mediumship. It's forever changing. And the energy you take into sitting in the power will affect it as well. Sometimes we're not in the right place for sitting. If we're highly stressed, sometimes that affects the energy of when we're sitting. So again, it varies every single time you sit. Don't go trying to get the same thing every time, because what that will do is hold you back as well. If you always try and get the same thing every time, you're not allowing yourself to move forward and progress. So again, it's like what I was saying earlier on. I don't know if you heard what I said earlier on, but it's about when we sit, we just sit to be. It's not about seeking experience. It's not about chasing feelings. It's not about chasing emotions or visuals. No, just sit to be. Recognize as long as you feel a difference between your own power and the power of the spirit world, as long as you can feel a difference between the two, that's enough. That's all you need. When I sit, and also the more experience you get with sitting, what happens is you feel less. You feel more initially because you're looking for it. Oh, what's going on here? What am I going to feel? What am I saying? But after a while, when you sit and you're used to it, you just do it. And you don't get as much. You don't get hardly anything sometimes. So, and sometimes when we sit and we're in the blend, time can fly, and other times time can slow down. They are both features of the altered state. It's called time distortion. Time can feel like it's speeding up and time can feel like it's speeding down. And it's because of the altered state you're in. That's all it is. So again, don't seek to try and get that every time. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, Jane, is it important to build a relationship with your main guides? It depends what you want to do is the simple answer. It depends what you want to do. If you want to work with inspiration, if you want to work with trance, then absolutely. If you want to do healing, no, you don't have to have a relationship. If you want to do mediumship, evidential mediumship, no, you don't have to have a relationship. Is it beneficial to have some degree of relationship? Yes. Is it helpful to know that you have guides and helpers working with you? Yes. But far too many people get hung up upon guides and helpers. Far too many people, the focus becomes the guide. When we're doing evidential mediumship on the platform, there's not one single guide working with us. It's a team who are working to create the conditions needed for it to happen. And there's more than one guide and helper working with you to make it happen with you. So, and you don't need to know who they are. When I work platform, I have no idea who my guides and helpers are who are working with me. And I'm not even aware of them. I don't need to be aware of them. I'm aware of the communicator coming from, and the information coming from the communicator in spirit. I don't need to be aware of my guides, and I'm not. When I'm doing healing, I attune to the spirit world. I invite my spirit healing guides to blend with me, but I'm not aware of individuals. I'm aware of a connection to spirit and an energy that flows through me. When I do inspiration, I become more aware of guides. When I do trance, I'm absolutely aware of guides in that they're coming through with a specific personality. For those who may be in the States, trance is like a deeper form of channeling, I guess. You guys call it, some of you may call it channeling. But in the trance state, the medium quietens everything down, seeks just to allow spirit to blend with them, for spirit to speak through you, for spirit to effectively be in charge. We surrender completely to spirit and let them speak through us and let them animate us. So in that case, you absolutely get to know your guides. But working with inspiration, again, you'll get to know your guides. So do I feel that it would really progress your mediumship if you knew your guides? Probably not, no. It doesn't matter is the simple answer. Do I feel it will progress your healing if you know your guides? Probably not, won't matter. Will it progress your trance and inspirational work, inspirational speaking, inspirational writing to know your guides? Absolutely. That's when they are inspiring you with their thoughts. That's when they are bringing some degree of inspiration or control to the equation. And that's really where we want to know them. But I've been working in the trance state now for over 10 years, and I don't know all of my guides. I don't have names for my guides. I don't always can tell all their energies apart. There are a lot who work with me. I'm aware of some. Some are very unique and have unique personalities, but some don't. And sometimes it's hard to delineate. Sometimes they merge and blend. They work as a team of minds, a collective of minds. One does not need to dominate as a personality. They can just work and blend so it can flow from different minds. So it's quite interesting. So I will, at some stage in the future, run a course on guides and helpers. That is one I have planned in the future. So we can get into it in a great deal of detail. And I will go into things like meditations and exercises where we can get to know our guides. Absolutely. So Skywalk Trice, this is great. You're a good teacher. I hope you do this again as I plan to have questions. I do this every month. At the end of every month, I do live Q&A in this environment where you can bring your questions on mediumship and development. Part of it as well is support for the courses and study program that I run. For those who are doing that, any questions that come up from course content, you can bring it along and have me answered. But it's open to everybody. So everybody can come along and be a part of it and bring your questions and have them answered. And that's the point of it. So as well, if any of you are not subscribers to the channel, do subscribe, do hit the notification bell, and you'll get notified of all my videos. You'll get notified of when I am going live. And as well, you can like this video. If you're enjoying the content of this, do like this video and do leave me a comment as well. And remember, you can support the channel as well you can click on Super Chat. It is enabled if you want to make a donation, or you can also donate through PayPal as well. PayPal me, there's a link at the very top of the chat box, and also there's a link in the description of the video as well, should you wish to make a donation. All donations are gratefully received. I do this I do this for free, but any donations are always appreciated. Absolutely. Okay, next question, Caroline. Just learn to get my prayer right, sit in the power, not try connecting to spirit, not there yet. So for me, you need to be doing all of it in unison, because I don't train people start by sitting in the power before you ever try connecting to spirit. So for me, practice mediumship as well, and sitting in the power will just enhance and help it to develop. So don't try and say, okay, I've got to get very proficient at sitting in the power first. Somebody with prayer, we develop prayer as we go along. Again, I would not say to someone, you've got to be highly proficient in sitting in the power or prayer before you can go on to mediumship. No, do the lot. When I started out as well, people told me you need to choose healing or mediumship. You can't do both. Yeah, I said, well, hang on a minute. All the greatest mediums of the past did both. Gordon Higginson, Estelle Roberts, Harry Edwards. Many of them were both healers and mediums. So how can they do it? And all I realized quite early on was the way you do each is different. Provide you know the theory of how to do each part, it's no problem doing all of it. It will not spread you too thin. But you can't do healing from the mindset of mediumship. And you can't do mediumship from the mindset of healing. It won't work. So you've got to know how to do each one and the mechanics of each. And that's probably a good point to mention as well, that I do have a huge number of videos, 24 videos covering a whole range of topics. I have mediumship classes 1 to 12, which kind of talk you through mediumship. I have a number of special topic series covering trance, spiritual healing, trance healing, working with inspiration, getting to know your guides and helpers. There's psychic development in there. There's working with color. There's working with psychometry. There's all sorts of things in there. They're all available, £12 each. They each last about 2 hours each. Some last for more. Some even go as long as 3 hours. So they're excellent value. So if there's any topics there you're interested in, want to get into it in detail, do check it out. I also, of course, offer a study program that is based upon my teachings. And the study program comprises 4 modules. First one is Foundations of Mediumship, and then we move on to Mechanics of Mediumship. Third one is Working with Mediumship, and the final one is all about Healing, Inspiration and Trance, what I call a special module. Those modules are £110 each, available again from my website, from my store as well. Links will be in the description below. That's the study program. It's what happens is you buy it and you get all the videos to watch in your own time. You can work through it as quickly as you like, or you can take as long as you need. It's a home study program, a self-study program. I highly recommend it. I know some people in here have done aspects of it, and yeah, I highly recommend it. It's worth checking out. Another thing I offer as well is a number of courses. The current course that I'm offering, I should probably do that one first. That's coming up starting in July. It's called Better Private Readings. That will be a deep dive into private readings, from everything starting from beginner readings, exchange readings, practice sittings, all the way through to working as a professional medium, doing private sittings, all the way through from everything from initial contact all the way through to testimonial at the end, and all the practicalities of how to do it, the dynamics of it, of the different parties in the sitting, the needs of the sitter, the needs of spirit, looking at all aspects of it, looking at how you handle challenges, like some of the challenges that come up here with difficult sitters, with people who say yes to you when they should be saying no, with people who are disappointed and want their money back, with no shows, people who don't come along and don't show up for their reading. How do you deal with that? What's your practice on refunds, etc., etc.? So that is definitely worth checking out as well. And when I run a course, once I've run it once before, I don't run it again, because I've got quite a number I'm looking to run over the coming months. So then this one that I'm doing next is Better Private Readings. It'll be followed by a course on platform mediumship. And now I'm going to be doing a course as well on guides and helpers. And I'm going to be doing a course as well on circles and teaching. So there's a few in the pipeline. But the courses I've already run, they are Great Mediums of the Past, where I spoke about the mediums who most inspire me upon my journey. I talk about their journey, their lives, but what we can learn from them. If we want to be good mediums, there's clues within their stories, and I go through that. The Confident Medium is, as it says, it's to help bring you confidence to mediumship. Then we have Spiritual Self-Development, Meditation and Sitting for Spirit. and then the fundamentals of mediumship, and then getting better evidence. And each one kind of builds upon the other. And so I highly recommend them. They're all £60 each for 4 classes. Each class runs for over 2 hours. So again, they're very good value. And also, all the courses, whenever I run classes, they're all recorded. There is a recording available, a replay. Similarly with this live stream, all my live streams, they're all recorded. You'll be able to watch all of this again. It will be uploaded onto YouTube. So if you've missed any of my past live streams, do check them out. They're all up there. As I say, I do them once a month. So yeah, there's a lot of teaching there for free that you can work through. Okay, next question. Diamond Divas. Can you explain why a red light is used in physical mediumship? Yes, I can. Would you like me to? So physical mediumship is where we're seeking to get physical phenomena in the room that can be witnessed by everybody and doesn't need any degree of developed psychic awareness. So skeptics alike should be able to witness physical mediumship. There should be physical phenomena. And if something materializes in the room, everybody should be able to see it. If there's sounds within the room, everybody should be able to hear it. Everybody should accept its objective phenomena. If you're going to see things, then you need light. And historically, it's always been a red light that's being used for materialization. And generally, physical mediumship is developed in total darkness, generally. And then generally, you introduce red light slowly at a very dim level. About a 5-watt pygmy bulb is generally what most people would use for red light. And the red light is there so you can see things like materializations. If somebody's purporting to materialize and walk around the room from spirit and it's not the medium, you want to be able to see the medium still sat in the chair, and you want to be able to see a materialized form in the room, hence the red light. Do you need to have red light to do physical mediumship? No. But if there's no light in the room whatsoever, then you risk accusations of fraud. There are so many cases of fraud that people have been found out that within physical mediumship, that really, if people are doing public demonstrations of physical mediumship, it's beneficial to have some degree of light if the guides and helpers will allow it. Absolutely. The great mediums, Gordon Higginson, many of the great mediums of old, they had the red light. They had, for materialization in particular, you've got to have it. Because otherwise, if somebody materializes and you can't see it, you don't know it's real or happening. And of course, I'm sure many of you are aware of a phenomenon where the medium walks around the room and gets out the chair. And again, that's not obviously not physical mediumship, and we want to avoid that. I'm a big fan of if we can bring modern technology into the seance room, do it. In the olden days, they used to put talcum powder on the floor. So if anyone got out their chair and moved around, you'd see the footprints. That's really simple, old school technology. It should be used really in modern seances. But today we have passive infrared and all sorts of things. You can get, I'm quite interested in photography. You can get digital cameras now which can practically see in the dark. And you can get that really, they are not putting any light out into the room. They can see what's taking place. You can get in passive infrared, which can see body heat, can see what's taking place in the room. There are so many things that we need to introduce really to ensure that physical mediumship is not open to accusations of fraud. But throughout the history of physical mediumship, it has, sadly. So there you go. That's why we recommend using a red light. Caroline, I can't practice mediumship right now unless I use the cat. So no, you can't do mediumship on a cat. Remember, to do mediumship, you need an audience, you need a sitter, or you need to be in a circle, a practice circle, or you need to be doing practice sittings, or you need to be on a course. People say, can I develop mediumship by myself at home? The answer is no, absolutely not. You need someone to work with. You need, people are only going to come to you for their loved one. Why would somebody come to you and there's no one to take it? And people put these crazy things on Facebook groups, and for me, it's not a way of developing. You can't develop unless you've got somebody who can answer you in real time, yes or no. That's what you want. That's what we're chasing. So if you have more questions, feel free to add them. I'm looking down the list here and I'm not seeing a huge amount. So do bring your questions and pop them in the live stream. Next question, Angeline. Could you please talk about your experience bringing in serious criminals like murderers? Do you know right away what do they usually have to say for themselves? I don't tend to work a lot with serious criminals. That makes it sound like I do. If you work enough as a medium, you're going to encounter a cross-section of society. You're going to encounter everybody, from the most spiritual, lovely people to people at the other end of the scale who may not necessarily be the most lovely people in the world. And they don't come forward and say, I'm really bad. They bring their personality forward. They bring the information through. If you may feel about them that they weren't always nice. Sometimes they will show me they spent time in prison and things will start to unfold. Sometimes they won't bring that much for you. But I've had people come forward and I know they really enjoy and like violence, and they would do anything to start a fight. They were very handy with their fists, very good with their fists, and they enjoyed hitting people, and they would do anything to start a fight, and they were proud of their reputation and proud of how many people they'd hospitalized. And they may bring that through as evidence about them, because if you think about it, if you're trying to demonstrate to somebody you've got their loved one and you're portraying them as love and light and they're going, no, he wasn't, he was nothing like that, then it doesn't really make any sense. They're going to show themselves as they are. But again, it depends. In the public domain, they're less likely to show that side of them in as much detail than they would in a sitting. In a sitting, there's nobody else listening in. It's private reading, private sitting. So they're going to bring more than they would in a public domain. And similarly, in a public domain, you've got to decide how much you want to give. But, equally, you might not know you might not know if this person is who they are. For example, I've seen, and not with me, but with another medium, they brought through one of the Cray twins for somebody in the audience. And it was only afterwards the person said, do you know who you had then? And the person went, no. And so they said, it's one of the Cray twins. And the person, but there was nothing really in the contact that would demonstrate that. There was nothing said that would suggest, they were a criminal or anything like that. So they don't always bring it. It's not that they, hang on, warning here, I'm bringing this for you. If somebody abused their family, they may bring elements of that to show and then to say, I'm really sorry, I regret it. Whether that was physical abuse, mental abuse, sexual abuse, whatever. They can bring aspects to touch, but again, not in a public domain. They won't bring it as strongly in a public domain. It will happen behind closed doors in a sitting. So we get all sorts. And as a medium, you've got to be an open channel. You've got to be a neutral space. You've got to be a caring, compassionate, safe place for people to work in. We can't be judgmental of people. We just, we work for whoever comes. Just as the emergency services, when they go and treat somebody who needs help, if you're an ambulance technician or a paramedic, you go and treat whoever needs help. You don't judge them. You don't get into why they need help. They just need help. You go there, you help them. As mediums, we've got to be the same. With that open space, we reunite people who are in the spirit world with people this side. And we bring them together without judgment. We bring them together without opinion. We let them reconnect. And that's all we can do. Somebody who may be a murderer is still somebody's son or somebody's dad or somebody's granddad. And there's still a love bond there or a connection there. There's still information that needs to be conveyed as part of the relationship. And whatever they may have done, we need to keep that to one side so it doesn't stop us from doing our job. Similarly with emotions, we've got to be emotionally neutral. Emotionally neutral, and we have to be non-judgmental. That's the conditions we are seeking to create. Okay, next question. What is the difference between your own thoughts and what is from spirit? Simple. Your own thoughts come from your own mind, and information from spirit comes from spirit. How do you know the difference? Now that is where the problems lie. First of all, we've got to learn to control our own mind, settle our own mind, and quieten our own mind. And the way we do that is through meditation. We need to learn to relinquish our own monkey mind, our own thoughts. Meditation is mind training for mediumship. Things like sitting in the power are a tool where we train our minds so we can work as a medium without our own thoughts interfering. Secondly, once we start working, we watch out for where problems develop, where our own mind comes in, where we may add to it, where we may embellish it, where we may extrapolate it, where we may assume. We watch and we learn what comes in from our own mind, and then we stick still to quieten it and learn and work without that. It takes time, it takes effort. You know, your own mind's going to interfere to some degree, probably for the first 5 years of your mediumship at least. In fact, I'd say my mind occasionally interferes now, but again, I can pick it up pretty quickly. Hang on, that's me. That's my mind trying to take it in a direction it shouldn't be going. And I've been working with mediumship now for 20 years. But my own mind can still come into it. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's important to recognize, that it can be our own minds playing games as well. So the job of the medium, remember, I said you've got to be a neutral space without emotions interfering, but without your own thoughts interfering. Another technique we look for to get information from the spirit world is to get outside the physicality of our head, to move our energy into our aura, into our energy field, to push out beyond the head. When I'm looking for information, if I try and look for it in here, I also get Martin's thoughts and Martin's brain. But when I'm pushing my mind to the side, out beyond my head, then information I'm getting is more likely to be coming from the spirit world. Does that make sense? That's what we're looking for. We're looking to get the information from spirit, not from our own minds. Good. So if you have any more questions, do keep adding them to the list. Dana, thank you for saying that the courses are the best investment ever. I do hope people get benefit from them, do enjoy them. I do hope that the audio and the video is still holding up on the stream. Let me know if it's not. Remember, if you're not subscribed to the channel, do subscribe, do hit the notification bell to receive notification of all my videos. At the moment, I'm aiming to get a video out once every week. So that's the aim, and you'll get notified of those. I do the live stream once per month, generally at the end of the month. Also, do check out my courses product study program. And if you want to support the channel, you can make a donation through PayPal. There's a link there, as I say, at the top of the chat. And there's also a link in the description as well. And if you want, you can also donate through Super Chat using the little $ at the bottom of the screen next to the chat box. You can use that as well. All donations are gratefully received. Okay. Next question, Lisa. Is the full Sit in the Power recording included in the study program? No, it's not. In the study program includes Mediumship Class 2, which is Building Power and Sitting for Spirit. That includes what I call a very shortened, compressed version of Sitting in the Power, where you spend maybe 5 minutes in your own power, 5 minutes in spirit, and I talk you in. There's less talking into it as well. So it's kind of like a stripped out version, Sitting in the Power light. But you can still work with it. But if you want the full-blown Sit in the Power, then you either have to buy that as a separate download from my store as an MP3 or a CD, or you can buy, as I mentioned before, on the courses, the Meditation and Sitting for Spirit course does include the full version of Sitting in the Power. And it also includes a second version of Sitting in the Power Mark II, if you like, called Sitting for Unfoldment, which is just another angle, another take upon it. It also includes a meditation to get to know your guides and a meditation for spiritual development. But the whole course on meditation and Sitting for Spirit is 4 2-hour sessions devoted to the topic. So if you really want to get into Sitting for Spirit and meditation, that's the course. That's the one you want. And what I try to do with all of the courses is I have my core teachings, which are within the videos and the study program. And all of these courses, if you like, sit on top of it and add detail to it, add more information to it. So Great Mediums of the Past is not covered in the videos of the study program, nor is the Confident Medium. I have one tutorial, one class on spiritual self-development. That's expanded into a whole course of 4 2-hour classes. Similarly, I have a tiny class on Building Power and Sitting for Spirit. And again, we expand that into another 4. And then we have Evidence is one class, and again, that's expanded into 4. We're getting better evidence. The only crossover, I would argue, is Fundamentals of Mediumship, which is actually relatively similar in content to Mediumship classes 1, 3, 4, and 5. It parallels that quite closely. So if you already have Mediumship classes 1 to 6, you don't need the Fundamentals of Mediumship. If you've bought modules 1 and 2 of the study program, you don't really need fundamentals of mediumship. That's where the overlap is. The rest of it, there is no overlap, but that is the little bit fundamentals. But fundamentals, if you want to just do the courses, these courses themselves, then you could start by doing meditation, sitting for spirit, then the fundamentals, then getting better evidence, and you've got a really good comprehensive grounding in mediumship. Spiritual self-development, because when we develop ourselves spiritually, we enhance the potential of mediumship within ourselves. If we just try and work mechanically, you will hit a limit. You'll bounce off a limit. But the more we develop ourselves spiritually, we remove those limits, those boundaries to our development. So spiritual development absolutely is the key. Let me come back to my main feed. Okay, next question. Do you have to be connected to spirit to see the aura? No. Seeing the aura has got nothing to do with mediumship, nothing to do with spirit. What's the rest of the question? Do you have to be connected to spirit to see the aura? Also can highly recommend the course. Yeah, Google is full of absolute nonsense and elaborate stories. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there that, well, it's fluff. There's a lot of nonsense out there. There's a lot of, I was going to say a rude word, but I won't, BS out there. And, you know, for me, I love Harry Edwards because what he did with healing was he looked at all the healing practices and he just stripped it all back to what actually mattered and got the best results. And that's kind of how I approach mediumship as well. If a practice doesn't help you, why bother? If you can spend hours doing practices that will never improve your mediumship, why do it? And some of the practices that fall into that is spending a long time protecting yourself, a long time, you know, there's all these rituals we can go through. And I've got a whole playlist on my YouTube channel about rituals in mediumship. Check that out. You can get into that in a great deal of detail. There's a whole bunch of things we can do that don't really help us. Again, I put a lot of time focusing on the chakras within the body to try and develop specific clairs. Again, it doesn't work for me. And I know very few people who develop well from that neither. So why do it if it doesn't actually give results? Why not focus upon giving results? That's what truly matters. And that's how I work with my mediumship teaching, is try and just focus on the techniques, on the knowledge that will help you and move you forward. That's what we want. So coming back to your question, do you have to be connected to spirit to see the aura? No. Seeing the aura has nothing to do with mediumship whatsoever. It's a psychic thing. Everybody has an energy field around them, and you're seeing it through your clairvoyance. So technically, no. You can actually see the aura with your normal objective eyes. And if someone stands against a plain background, you can make out an outline around them, like a ready brick glow. For those of you in the UK, you'll know what I mean. A ready brick glow. But it's just like there's a couple of inches away from the skin, you can see like an emanation out from it. And you don't even have to be psychic to see that. You can get glasses, aura glasses, which are like an indigo color that you wear, and you can help you to see the actual emanation from the body, that electromagnetic field that emanates from the body. Because we are a living thing. There are electrical processes taking place within us, and there is an electromagnetic radiation from us. So a guy called Joseph Kilner invented Kilner screens way back in the early 1900s, like 1910, 1920. And they were basically goggles that were filled with a diisocyanate dye, which was like an indigo color, but it was made of had cyanide in it. And they were notorious for breaking. And of course, if it got on your skin, it would poison you. Luckily now we can just get some indigo aura glasses and, you know, put them on. There's a lot of color glasses out there, color therapy glasses. And if you get the indigo color, they have the rainbow colors, and the indigo color is the one you want. That will help you see the aura the most. So everybody can see the aura wearing those glasses pretty much. I don't know anybody who can't see it to some degree with their normal eyes without it. So that's pretty much everybody. But then we have when we see the aura through our clairvoyance vision. Now, I don't really see auras. Some mediums do, some don't. I don't really see auras. I don't get excited by auras neither because I don't see them, pretty much. If I wear these goggles, these glasses, yes, I see them. But otherwise, I don't. So, but do you need to? No. If you like, you can perceive the energy of the aura. Some people see colors, but some people just feel the energy. And I more feel the energy. So yeah, So don't worry, but do you need to see the aura? No. Yeah, I buy so many books, get so many books on mediumship, and it's like, you got to learn to do the chakras, and you got to learn to see the aura. And a lot of it's just padding, if I'm quite frank. It's got nothing to do with mediumship, really, in terms of developing mediumship. I know a lot of people I've trained. I know a lot of people who've developed to a very high standard, never batted an eyelid, not looked at chakras once, not looked at the aura once. No relevance whatsoever to developing quality mediumship. Not to say that it's not of benefit when you're doing a psychic reading, because feeling into the energy of the aura is the critical aspect of it. Seeing the aura is extremely beneficial. Gordon Higginson used to see people's auras and see colours in it. I know Mavis Patilla, similarly, sees auras and colours in it. But that's a psychic thing. That's when you're working psychically. Understand that it's all about the psychic. So hopefully that makes sense. Tony, for mediumship, does location matter? Are some places better than others, or is it more about the energy of the people present? So location doesn't really matter, provided the conditions are right. It's not the location, it's the conditions. That's what we really need. And for example, if you go into a church and there's just been a big row in that church, there'll be an energy there and you'll go, feels a bit odd in here. Okay. Similarly, if you do a private reading and the conditions, say sometimes people will have you around their home to do private readings and everybody is drunk. You know, they've all had a good bottle of wine each and they're all completely wasted and it's a bit of fun. That is the wrong environment for mediumship, because it doesn't have the sacred nature or respect its due. Mediumship won't function so well in that environment. And as a medium, you may not feel comfortable in that environment as well. That's the other thing. I don't feel comfortable working in that environment. If someone puts me on the spot and says, oh, you're a medium, aren't you? Okay, start doing some mediumship for us. And I'm on a night out or I'm at a social event, I won't do it because it's not the right energy. It's not the right time or the right place. Mediumship is an aspect of my religion. It's sacred. You wouldn't ask somebody to do something of their religion in the middle of a social event. No. So why would we do it with mediumship? And it's not something just for having a bit of fun neither. You know, oh, let's all get drunk and then let's have a bit of fun with some mediumship. We don't want to do that. So no. So yes. So mediumship, there's a right time and a right place. Now, locations, as I say, it's the energy. If you're doing it and the energy's not right, then that's going to help. That's going to create problems. And within my mediumship class 8, managing problems within mediumship, I talk about all the different factors that affect it. But from the really simple things like the physical properties of the location, I can only work doing good mediumship within a temperature range. Certain temperature range. Once it goes above 30 degrees or 35 degrees, I can't work. I'm too hot. It's uncomfortable. It blocks me from working. If it's freezing cold, if I'm shivering, I can't work. I once did a demonstration of mediumship at a church where there was no heating. And everybody else had all their thick coats and woolly hats on. And I just got out of my car and I had a suit on and I had no coat. And I was my fingers were like blocks of ice. My feet were like blocks of ice. And I struggled that night because it was just so cold. And, you know, my attention was just drawn to how cold I am all the time. And the fact there's just no heating and it's like 5 degrees C. And that's, you know, it's just not helpful. So there's physical properties within the location. There's the energetic energy of the location. There's the energy that the audience or the sitter brings to the location. All of that affect mediumship. But generally, locations themselves don't matter as much, provided they're not daft. You know, some locations would not be ideal. You know, let's go and do mediumship in a graveyard. Well, it would still work, but I wouldn't recommend it. You've got the wrong connotation. So again, or let's go and do mediumship in a pub or a nightclub. Again, it's not the right energy for it. So I hope that helps answer your question about... I do hope that answers the question about location. So Keith, thank you very much for your super chat. That is really much appreciated. Let me come to your question. Would it be true to say that sitting in your power develops your psychic ability and sitting in the power of spirit develops mediumship ability? If it was that simple, the answer is no. So Sitting in the power does not really develop any psychic ability, if I'm frank. I don't think. So important to recognize that. If you want to develop psychic ability, go and do psychic exercises. That's what you need. But if you want to unfold your mediumistic potentials, I get that you unfolding some of your spiritual potentials will have an improvement on the psychic. There will be, I feel like, a crossover, a flow over onto the psychic. But it's primarily about developing the potentials within us for mediumship and developing the potentials within us to recognize our true spiritual nature, to recognize that we are a soul, that we are connected to a realm of which we are already part. When you sit in the power of your own spirit, your own soul, you recognize that you are a spirit. And you recognize that when you blend and merge with the energy of the greater spirit, the spirit realm, you recognize it's a similar energy. And you recognize that it's an energy that you're already part of, that you belong to. So it's about improving your own spiritual understanding of self. It's not a simple case of sit in your own power and it's psychic, and sit in spirit, it's mediumistic. It's not as simple as that. But when we go and sit in the power of spirit, we have to develop, if you like, ourselves as a vessel to blend with the spirit. So I often say that, imagine if that's you and you go and take that to spirit. There's not a great deal to fill. When you learn to sit in your own power and build your own power and you take it to spirit, there's a lot more to fill. When you learn to sit in your own power even more and take that to spirit, there's even more to blend with and fill. And when you sit in your power and you get your power very broad and you take that to the spirit world, there's a great deal more blending that will take place. And Gordon Higgins used to say that we should be able to sit in our own power to the extent that the walls can feel the presence of our own energy. And when Gordon Higginson used to go to the Arthur Findlay College, it was said that everybody could feel him walk in the door. It'd be like the energy in the whole college would change when he was present. It's the emanation of his aura, the emanation of his power. His power was such and highly developed that it was felt. The walls felt it, the students felt it, the whole place felt it. And that's what we're talking about. So we're talking about developing us. And we need our own power to work. You can get power, additional power topped up from your sitters, from an audience. But fundamentally, you've got to have your own power. And especially working in Zoom, online, demonstrations, it's all your own power. So we're building that power as fuel for the mediumship. So really, sitting in the power is primarily targeted at mediumship. Would it help psychically? Yeah, a little bit. But it's primarily for mediumship. I hope that answers the question. Okay, let me come back up to where we were. Do I have any plans to offer a mentorship program? Not at the moment, no. I have thought about it, but because I've got so many courses I'm planning and aiming to run, because I want to make a lot of teachings free on YouTube as well, I want to give people a lot of, I'd like to give some absolute bare bones basics for free so it can help lift the quality of mediumship teaching. And that's my goal with the channel. And also I've got books to write as well. I'm currently writing the first one. So I've got so much going on that running a mentorship program is not a priority for me. So I can't say never. It potentially it could happen in the future, but probably not until at least 2023, maybe later. If anyone is still interested at that point. Next question. I'd like to connect with spirit guides, higher self, and ask for guidance for myself. How can I do this? So what we're talking about there is working with inspiration. What we're talking about there is we can get inspiration from our own higher self, our own soul. Or what we're talking about is we can get inspiration from a guide or a helper in the spirit world. That's what we're seeking to do. I do have a video. One of my videos is called Working with Inspiration, where I talk through how inspiration works. And inspiration starts in the earliest form as, if you like, a thought, an idea, and then it moves into sequences of ideas, and then it moves into words, and then it moves into you, effectively spirit speak through you. The flow comes through you, almost without a conscious understanding. Or if it's inspirational writing, a flow happens with the pen and it just pours through you. But initially, you may just be receiving an inspirational thought, or a couple of thoughts which piece together. And the way you do it, it's a very passive energy. It's a very passive thing. We're seeking to blend with spirit. We're seeking to open to the inspiration of spirit. So if you want to learn a lot more about it, I do recommend that video, Working with Inspiration. It's like me saying, how do you do mediumship? I can't really answer that in a 5 or 10 minute question. But again, you've got to work through the stages. You've got to be open to your guides and helpers. The first stage is learning to blend and attune to spirit. Sitting in the power is at the core of so many aspects of working with the spirit world. So sitting in the power is needed for mediumship. It's needed for working with inspiration. It's needed for trance. All of those build off of sitting in the power. To a certain degree, you can do healing without sitting in the power. But sitting in the power when we're healing is we're blending with the energy of spirit. So again, it helps there. So sitting in the power helps all aspects of mediumship, really. So I hope that helps you a little bit understand. But if you want to get into it in more detail, then my video working with spirit inspiration will help you. Question: do you bring in more than one spirit in one mediumship reading? I don't mean at the same time, but say nan, then dad, etc. I've had people say I should stay with one spirit the whole time. Depends on the length of time of the readings, quite simply. If your reading's an hour, stay with one person for an hour would be challenging. But if your reading's only 10 minutes, yes, one would be a good fit. If your reading's 20 minutes, then one, maybe two tops. If your reading's half an hour, then you may be able to do 2 or 3. And again, the other thing is there's no hard and fast rules. How much has spirit got to say? How much of a reunion do they need? What is the message they wish to bring? If there's a great deal that's got to be communicated, then you're going to spend a long time with it. If they're just coming to say hello and you've had them multiple times before, here's Nan saying hello, okay then, and then you got mum, and then you've got dad, and then you've got your grandma, your granddad, your uncle, then in that case you may be working with each one for 5 minutes just to let the person know they're there. And not all of them will necessarily have a message. So the problem with that question, and I actually did do a YouTube video on this. I did a YouTube video on how many contacts should there be in a private sitting. And I put out my YouTube video on the timing of private sittings, which really didn't do very well at all. Didn't get a great deal of views. So I actually held that next one back. I didn't put it out there because it didn't do particularly well. But this is the second time somebody has asked me the exact same question about it within a matter of weeks, 2 weeks even. So I think I'm going to put that video out there soon. If not in June, it'll go out in July. I'll put that one out there because I think it's worth seeing. And I'll go into it. I probably talk for 15 minutes about 10, 15 minutes about that exact thing and go into all the details. But if I was going to a private sitting, a standard sitting lasting half an hour or 45 minutes, generally you'd get more than one. Absolutely. You'd certainly get in 45 minutes. I'd certainly expect more than one communicator. But again, it depends upon the mix of how much is working psychically, how much is working mediumistically, etc. There's a lot of factors at play. So if you are enjoying this video so far, then remember, do hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, you can do that. Hit the notification bell. You'll get notification of all my future videos. You'll also get notification of when I go live as well for these live streams. So do that. If you want to support the channel, you can make a donation to support the channel through PayPal. There's a link at the top of the chat box. There's also that link in the description. And you can also use Super Chat. It's always greatly appreciated if you would like to make a donation. Next question. A few years ago, I met a trance medium. My confidence was going down because of the things he told me. I thought he was not in a trance. Is this possible? Absolutely. There are a number of trance mediums who don't work in trance. I don't want to be rude about anybody or anything, but what I would say is trance mediumship is probably the most easiest mediumship to fake. So I will say that, I have met and heard a whole bunch of trance mediums where what's coming out their mouth is quite frankly rubbish. I've seen trance mediums pretend to be a seal and get on the floor and be a performing seal. You know, that's not the intelligence of spirit. I'm sorry. And there's a lot of people who wish to do trance, who think they're doing trance, but sadly they've not developed it well enough that there's an awful great amount of their own mind in it, their own needs in it, and there's very little spirit there, if I'm frank. So yes, absolutely, that can happen. I've had trance sittings with mediums where I've been convinced there was no trance taking place whatsoever. So yeah, I get it. It can happen. So I would just say in that scenario, you can just let it go. If it doesn't resonate with you, if it doesn't help you, let it go. And remember, the spirit world would never bring anything negative. Never. The spirit world do not come to knock us. The spirit world do not come to hurt our confidence. The spirit world do not come to tell us we're lousy. They would not do that. Never. If you have a sitting with somebody and they're purporting to be in trance and anything negative is coming forward from them, that's not from the spirit world. I'm sorry. That's not spirit. I've never had anything come through genuine trance mediums. Never heard it, and through my own trance and other people's trance who I know who do it well. Nothing negative comes through. Not that they won't necessarily challenge our thinking, which they will. Not that they won't necessarily bring through things to make us think or look at our behavior carefully. But they don't come and attack us or criticize us or put us down. They don't do that. So I hope that helps. Next question. When bringing through evidence, I sometimes go through a period of giving names and getting them all right, and then a period of getting them all wrong. Why does this happen? Quite simply because your mediumship is changing. I mentioned the Getting Better Evidence course that I've just completed. It is available if you would like to purchase the classes. In that, I talk through a great deal in detail about how your mediumship works and how the evidence is forever changing. And you can be good this week at names and lousy next. You can go through a period where it works for 6 months and then stops. It's just the nature of mediumship. Mediumship is forever changing, and we've got to roll with it. We've got to go with the flow. If you try and do mediumship from the same place every time, you'll struggle. It won't work. You're changing. Your mediumship's changing. Accept it. Go with it. And what you have to do is you have to monitor and watch your own mediumship. If I give names and they're all working great, okay, I'm a bit more confident giving names the next time I'm working. And if they all work the next time, then I think, okay, I'm in a phase where names work for me. And I keep watching names. I work a month or two later and names are no longer working. 50% hit rate. Okay, names are a bit hit and miss. Work a bit later, give some names, none of them taken. Okay, maybe names are no longer my forte. And that happens. We've got to monitor ourselves and understand where we are at in our own mediumship. That's important to recognize. So it happens. You can't change it. You've just got to go with it. Simple answer. Okay. Ms. Silver 41, do you quickly scan the aura or scan the person's sitter to just briefly check in where they are emotionally, mentally before you start a mediumship reading? No. When I'm doing a mediumship reading, I'm not interested in the sitter one iota, because that's psychic. I'm going to start working psychically. If I go in there, that's psychic. When I start doing mediumistic sitting, I'm not interested in the sitter. I'm interested in spirit. So my focus is with spirit. My focus is who wishes to communicate, build up the evidence, move to the message. And when I move to the message, that's when I may go in psychically to see what's happening with the person in their life, to see how what's coming from spirit meshes with what's going on in their energy. But if somebody walks into the room with me and I start getting psychically into their energy, it may block my mediumship. It may take me down a path I don't want to go. So no. So if they've come for a psychic sitting, obviously work with their energy, work with their aura. You may just touch their energy to see how open they are to receiving spirit, or how much is it issues in their life at this moment in time they've got going on. But generally, when I do, if it's someone comes to me for a mediumship sitting, I'm not interested in their aura generally. I'm interested in what spirit's got to say. I'm interested in who wishes to connect. I'm interested in creating that reunion for them. That's the goal. That's the aim. That's what we want. So hopefully that all makes sense. Tips with names. I can hear the first letter or two and it sounds like, but shouldn't the whole name come through if I can hear the beginning sound? Very few people can hear names. It's an important... People think that names, Bill, Charlie, doesn't work like that for most mediums. Most mediums, the name appears within their mind. Do you know when you know something? For me, that's how I get it. I know it. It's there. It's in my mind. Okay, Mary, it's in my mind. What's that mean? Okay, give it. Or sometimes you see the letters written, C-H-A-R, and then it stops because maybe there's only enough power to write those names. Is it Charlie? Is it Charlene? What is it? So we can say I've got a name beginning with C-H-A-R. Feels like it's a woman's name. And see if it fits. But very rarely does spirit give us a name within our mind. If you go looking for names, what happens is your own mind pops them in. If you go looking for a name, it's like you can't receive it through your mediumship. Your own mind will go, Bill, Jane, Sheila, and it's not going to help you. So with names, allow them to build and present themselves. Don't go chasing them. Don't go chasing them. But remember that very, very few mediums hear names spoken out loud in their mind, because think about it. If you can hear names spoken out loud in your mind, you can hear everything spoken out loud. I've got John Smith here. He's age 52. He lives at 52 Church Road, and he's in the spirit world with his wife, Betty. And he had 3 children, and you're the second. Your name is Margaret. He tells me your name is Margaret, and you've got 3 kids, and he wants to be remembered to such and such, such and such, such and such. Gordon Higginson could work like that. Helen Hughes could work like that. They were clairaudient mediums. Very few mediums today I know of can do that. I don't know any, actually. Occasionally I know a few mediums who can get an occasional word clairaudiently, but it's very, very rare. And people have this expectation of getting it, and you're not going to get it because it is so rare. You know, I don't get it like that. Very occasionally I may feel like it's spoken, but most of the time it just surfaces within the mind, like you have a knowing. It's there and it surfaces. Oh, okay, it's there. Christine, the name of Christine is in my mind. Give it. So I hope that helps a little bit. And it takes me nicely to the next question. I must be getting psychically. Caroline, are there mediums today as accurate as the mediums of the past? Gordon Higginson and his connections were insane. I'm not asking you to name names, but are people of that standard today? What I would say is I did a talk on mediumship past, present and future, where I actually discussed this in detail. I talked about the mediums of the past. I talked about the mediums of the present. I talked about what we should be bringing forward from the mediums of the past that made them such good mediums. And I talk about that in a great deal of detail in my course, Great Mediums of the Past, that you'll see on the screen there. One of the mediums there is Gordon Higginson. The other one is Estelle Roberts, Helen Hughes, Morris Barbanel, Harry Edwards. And I talk about what made them great mediums and what we can learn from them and what we can bring forwards that so many people have missed. And there wasn't the commercialism, and they all worked from a place of service. It was part of their religion. It was a religious sacred act. It was never done for self. It was never done for egotistical reasons. It was never done to serve self. It was done to serve the two worlds. It was done to serve humanity. It was done for a bigger picture. And they all had the most amazing spiritual qualities. That's what you're looking for. Are there any mediums today that I know who can work like that? Not in the public domain, no. Many great mediums of today will hate me for saying that. But I've got transcripts of Gordon that I put on the Gordon Higginson website that are devastating in their accuracy. Similarly, I've got some pieces of information of a similar caliber from Helen Hughes. Similarly, I've seen aspects of Estelle Roberts' mediumship where it's the same. I've not come across anybody reporting on today's mediums to that degree, or I've not seen any of today's mediums put out a recording of themselves working at that degree. So we have to then come to the conclusion that it's not as good today. That's what we have to conclude. I know of nobody working to that standard now. I know of no what I call pure clairaudient mediums who are working to that standard, which is a real shame. But there you go. So is it to say that it's not possible? No, but we need the qualities within the mediums. And it's about spiritual qualities first and foremost. And humility. Those who are, what I think is, if those people exist, they're probably working quietly behind closed doors, just doing the work and serving spirit. They're not banging their own drum. They're not telling everyone, hey, look at me, I'm one of the world's finest evidential mediums. No, they're just doing it simply, sacredly, and doing it for the right reasons. So I'd like to hope that they're out there, but I haven't heard of any yet or come across any recently. Next question. So sitting with spirit in the past should bring a more compassionate person, more non-judgmental when you realize we are all one. Not necessarily. Now for this one, the course you want to learn to develop yourself spiritually is spiritual self-development. And to develop yourself spiritually, that course, it's all about making the soul much more present within your everyday life. It's all about working from the soul, looking It's all about questioning everything you do and working out, is it ego driven? Is it selfish driven? Or is it soul driven? Is it service driven? And that's what we're looking for. Sitting in the power won't necessarily do that. Sitting in the power will help you to understand yourself as your spiritual nature. I get that, yes, but it won't necessarily make you a spiritual person. To become spiritual, it has to be unfolded from within. I've got one of my favorite quotes on the wall. You have to grow from the inside out. None can teach you. None can make you spiritual. There is no other teacher but your own soul. Only our own soul can unfold the spiritual qualities within. And life, all of life, every experience in your life, not just your spiritual work, is about developing the spiritual qualities. The people who push your buttons, that's about helping you become more spiritual. The things that irritate you in your life, that's about helping you become more spiritual. I know many people who claim themselves to be spiritual mediums, yet are always bad-mouthing other people, or moaning and groaning, and they're not exhibiting spiritual qualities. I don't personally think the word spiritual medium is the right term. For me, it's either spirit medium or evidential medium, or spiritualist medium in my case, because I'm a spiritualist. I don't really like the term spiritual. My own guides have said that no one can call himself spiritual. Only the actions, only the thoughts and actions that are coming from the person will demonstrate the degree of spirituality achieved. Only when you get to the spirit world will you recognize the level of spirituality and spiritual development you've attained. You may think you're spiritual, but what you're thinking and doing on a day-to-day basis will determine it. When no one's watching, how do you treat people? How do you treat the most lowly person when no one's watching? That determines your spirituality. And things like that. Not when you're standing in front of an audience and you're billed as a spiritual person. Yes, you can say spiritual things, but they have to translate into every aspect of your life for you to be truly spiritual. So there you go. I'll get off my high horse now and keep going. Thank you for your answer about trance. You're welcome. Glad you found it helpful. What does the question? What does the term psychometrized spirit mean? It's a thing. If it is a thing, how would I know I'm doing it? So I talk about when we're working with spirit, we can receive information, if you like, from their mind to mind, telepathy, or we can blend with their energy. Remember that if you're an energy, you are a body and you are an energy field. When you die, the body is left behind. The mind, the consciousness, the energy field is what continues. That's what continues. We mistake ourselves with the flesh, the physical, but actually we're that energy field, we're that consciousness. That's what we are. Our consciousness will create an etheric body when we reach the spirit world. That will be if you like, a replica, a duplicate of this one. So the physical body is a bit of an illusion. Yes, we need it for this lifetime, but it doesn't define us. So spirit, when we blend with spirit, they are that energy field. We blend with their energy field. Just like we can psychically read somebody here sitting in front of us, we can push into their energy and receive information back, and push into their energy and receive information back. What they're thinking emotionally, mentally, emotionally, physically, etc. It's all there within their energy. Similarly with spirit, when spirit blends with you, you can experience their energy field and feel into it. Their personality is there. Their passing condition is there within their energy. All sorts of information is there within the energy. And when you're receiving it from their energy rather than from their mind, that's what we call psychometrizing spirit, when we're receiving it from their energy. If you like, we're psychically working with the energy of spirit. Psychic is for people here and things here, so it's not, the word psychic doesn't really fit. You can't say I'm doing a psychic reading of spirit. So we don't say that. We tend to say you're psychometrizing spirit, but you're using your psychic senses to get information from the energy of spirit. So that's what it means. So I hope that explains it for you. Gretchen, have you ever had someone in spirit come through where the sitter did not want to hear from them, and how did that end? Many times, many times. So some people, we mentioned earlier on in the live Q&A, that some people only want a specific person. Some people may actually not want to hear from someone. Someone may have been very abusive to them, and it's like, I'd had nothing to do with them in this life. I'm having nothing to do with them from the spirit world. As a medium, you have to acknowledge that if they don't want to accept it, you've got to go with it. we can't create pain or suffering for the sitter or a recipient because we feel we have to bring them through. They'll come forward in the hope that they will be taken. If they won't be taken, I just say, thank you very much for coming forward. Sadly, not today. I hope you can come through another time and it will be taken. But I have to respect the sitter's wishes. I have to respect the recipient in the audience. If they don't want to hear from them, my job is to not bring them through. I will say they're here. Are you sure you don't want to hear what they've got to say? Are you sure you don't want to give them a little bit of time just to hear what they've got to say? But if the answer is no, send them away. We have to send them away, sadly. So sometimes they'll say, okay, I'll hear what they've got to say. And then they'll say, okay, I'm happy for you to work with them. And, I'd say 50-50. Sometimes it's send them away and sometimes we'll see. But if it becomes painful, you've got to stop it. Okay. Yeah. And if your sitter is being emotionally impacted negatively by what's happening, then we have a duty as well to protect and help them. And if they want us to stop, we stop. It's important to recognize the ethics of this work. So yeah, but it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon. So it can go many ways, but yeah. But remember, we're working in that space of compassion, that space of love, that space of the safe space we create for spirit, but for the recipient, the sitter and spirit. And we're non-judgmental. And, I've had dad come forward who may have abused daughter in front of them. And that's hard to work with. And it will uncover and release emotions from the sitter. And it's like treading on eggshells. You're having to be very careful. You're the messenger through which the communication has taken place. Healing may take place if we do it right. If we do it wrong, it may not. It's very hard. It takes a skilled medium to be able to work with it with tact and care and respect both parties. And spirit will not want to hurt the person. But we've got to be very careful what we're doing. We may be shown things so we have an understanding, but it may not be to relay. We always talk, give what you get. Actually, no. Give what you get, but make sure there's a tact filter in front of you that says, does this need to be given? It may be shown to you so you understand the nature of the relationship to work carefully. You don't say, he's showing me abusing you. No, that may not be what the intent is. The intent for you as the medium to understand the relationship, to tread carefully. I hope that all makes sense. I'll stop there. I'll not get too deep into that. Paul, how do you imagine spirits behaving in other dimensions? Same as mediums? Concentrating hard to give meaning? Are they as frustrated as mediums not getting the message through, laughing at us? So when they're working with us, they come with a hope. They come with a desire to get their message through. But if their message doesn't get through the way they like, I think they'll understand some of the challenges mediums face. So they won't be brutally hard on us. Some may get frustrated, depends upon their level of spirituality and spiritual development they've attained. If you're not a very spiritual person and the medium can't get your message across, you might think, don't think much of this medium. But if you are a spiritual person, you'll say, yeah, I've done my best. They're not quite getting it, but hey. So, they will do their best to communicate. They will do their best to get it right. But I don't think they'll be laughing at us, no. If we're getting it wrong and we're creating humor, they may laugh with us and enjoy the humor we create. But they're not laughing at us. They're laughing with us. Do they get frustrated with us? Some may, but I think a majority wouldn't. I should mention as well that I will be releasing another video on my YouTube channel in the next month or so, which will be a lecture that I did. You're going to get a full-length lecture from me lasting about 45 minutes. All about mediumship from the spirit communicator's perspective. So that's worth waiting for. I'll give you a little teaser there. Now that is worth waiting for. Okay, what's next? Caroline. So I will say again, if you are enjoying the live stream, do hit the like button. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, then do subscribe to the channel. Do hit the notification bell. If you're enjoying this as well, please feel free to make a donation through my PayPal link pinned to the top of the chat, also in the description. And you can also use the super chat if you would like to make a super chat donation. All donations are gratefully received. Right. And also don't forget to check out my courses, product study program available from my store, martintwycrossproducts.co.uk. Next question. I've listened to all of Gordon Higginson and Leslie Flint and then listened to today's trance, and the quality of the spirit is so different. The info given is contrary. Fakers, too many now. The problem is we don't have so many good examples of trance mediums in the public domain. And Gordon and Leslie Flint were exceptional. You know, we have to remember that mediums of that caliber come along rarely, very, very rarely indeed. And they've got to be trained right and they've got to unfold right to make it happen. So, but I know of other fabulous trance mediums that make my jaw drop, make me go, wow. For example, Eileen Davies is one such trance medium whose trance mediumship, wow, wow. You know, amazing. But it's not necessarily easily accessible. You know, people have said to me, will you put out a recording of your trance? And again, I will put transcripts of the trance teachings out there, but when you put a recording out there, people start judging you. People start saying, well, he doesn't seem to be in trance, or that doesn't really, his voice hasn't changed very much. I don't think that's real trance. I know some people who work in trance with a great voice change, people think it's real, and it may not be. Yet other people, there's very little difference between their voice and spirit's voice. And people say, well, that's not real because that's the medium's voice. But actually, when you listen to what is spoken, the quality is phenomenal. Way beyond what the medium's capable of. And the acid test of trances is what is taking place beyond what the medium is capable of in their normal state. With my own trance, spirit have brought through complex ideas that just blow my mind. When I read a transcript or listen to it back, it's like, that's way beyond what I'm capable of. Way beyond the teaching I can do. It's like, amazing. That's trance. But if it's what I could do with my eyes open, if it's what I could do inspiration with my eyes open, it's not that good. You know, I often listen to some of the channeling that goes way back. I don't want to mention who it is, but I guess when I first got into mediumship in 2001, 2002, I consumed quite a lot of channeling that existed back then, and I just found it so repetitive, and I didn't feel there was an influence properly of a spirit there. It just didn't feel right. And looking back at it, it wasn't brilliant. I'm not going to mention any names because that's not appropriate. What I'm trying to say is, yeah, I just felt it was like almost like set ideas just constantly repeating. I tell you somebody else that's trance who's very good as well is Colin Fry, who's now in spirit. Colin was mainly known for Sixth Sense and platform mediumship, but his trance work, I saw him demonstrate trance many times, and he let me transcribe one of them, and it's very, very interesting, very good. And there are some videos from way back. I think they're still available for sale, if I'm not mistaken, that were made of him in trance. And again, they're worth seeing. They are interesting, very interesting. He was a good trance medium, very good trance medium, good physical medium as well. But not a lot of people know that, because I guess from about 2003 onwards, he didn't do the trance or the physical much anymore, and he focused predominantly on his TV show and the touring. But yeah, very good, very good. So I've met Gordon Higginson, brilliant. I enjoyed his lectures, wonderful. So if anyone doesn't know, I actually have built a website, a tribute website to Gordon Higginson called the Gordon Higginson Tribute Website. There's also a Facebook page, Gordon Higginson Tribute page on Facebook. Check that out as well. And there's a YouTube channel as well. We're on YouTube. There's a Gordon Higginson YouTube channel. Do check that out. Do subscribe. We've got quite a few. I've got all the video footage that I know of Gordon that I've been able to collect that people have given me permission to use on the channel. I've got some more audio lectures that we'll be putting up there in the coming months as well. So there's a lot of good stuff out there, but Gordon was phenomenal. He was great. I love Gordon. It's a big passion of mine to try and keep his teachings alive. So do check it out as well. And as I say, if you really want to know more about Gordon, check out my Great Mediums course, where I do go into Gordon Higginson in a great deal of detail and why I'm so passionate about him. Never heard of him until recently. Bought his book, and you've read it already. Came today and you've read it. Wonderful. Listen to all his videos through you. You can tell that he is a man with integrity. Absolutely. And that's the thing. Integrity is the key. Absolutely. Tony, there's a lot of spiritual books out there. Some feel better than others. I'm currently reading Glyn Edwards. Are there any authors you'd recommend? The problem with spiritual books is it's a very personal thing. So obviously I recommend the Gordon book, goes without saying. Now, some people have said to me, the Gordon book wasn't really Gordon, but you've got to remember how the Gordon book came into being. It was pulled together by Jean Bassett. I used to know Jean Bassett very well. She used to come and serve my church, our church, Hampton Hill, very regularly. I got to know her very well. She actually kindly gave me all the material she had on Gordon before she passed. I was very privileged that she chose to donate it to me to help move things forward, and that was one of the reasons that helped drove the website forward as well. So highly recommend that. Glyn Edwards' books are very interesting as well. I recommend all of Glyn's books. I recommend all of Maurice Barbanel's books. If you're into healing, you can do no finer than Harry Edwards. There's a lot of good books. Janet Nahavic's book, Where Two Worlds Meet. Gordon Smith books. But I think the Gordon Smith books are quite easy access. But you may outgrow them. Hopefully there'll be a book from somebody here. Me coming out soon. Hopefully later this year or very beginning of next year. I am planning a few, so hopefully there'll be some good books there as well. But as I say, the problem with recommending people's books, if I recommend one and I don't recommend another, they get upset. So it's personal choice. It is personal choice. You just got to go with it. Absolutely. Amy, can you please explain how the empath, mystic, seer triad works together? So simply put, Amy, I can't, because I don't even know what that means. I've never heard of that. In 20 years, I've never heard of that. In the UK, I spoke about this in my last live stream. In the UK, we don't have a term of empath. Nobody I know in the UK would ever call themselves an empath, so I don't really know what it means. For me, an empath is somebody who has clairsentience and can feel things. So, or a highly sensitive person. That's what I would describe them as. Mystic, again, I would never call myself a mystic. I don't really know very many mediums who would call themselves mystics. You know, it's a bit of a strange terminology. Or seer. A seer, what, sees the future? Again, it's not part of my experience. I would never use the term. So I can't tell you anything about that because I know nothing about it. Simply put. Sorry about that. Next question, Amy. How much of the person trying to come through from the other side via medium is the soul, and how much of it is the communication of all? Again, I don't actually know what you mean by this. So when somebody communicates from the spirit, when someone passes to spirit, they are the same person they were here in the spirit world. Nothing has changed. They don't instantly become enlightened. They don't instantly become spiritual. They don't become the Dalai Lama or Mother Teresa overnight. When you go, you're the same person. You see from a slightly different aspect. You see from a different vantage point. Your body's gone. You know you're not a body anymore. You knew you're more than the body. You start to recognize that actually the interconnectedness between people, you start to see from a different vantage point because you're in spirit. So that's the key to recognize. But you can only develop spiritually through your own actions, your own thoughts, your own words, your own service you give to others. That's what develops you spiritually. So you'll have reached a level of spiritual attainment here, and in the spirit world, it's the same. So yes, you're a soul, or you're an aspect of soul expressed. That aspect is the aspect that communicates back from the spirit world. There's this concept of group souls or an oversoul, which I don't want to get into too much detail, but that's not what's communicating. What's communicating is the individual who was the individual here, who continues on their journey as an individual. That's what's communicating from the spirit world. They're communicating their experiences. They're communicating their message. They are, in the spirit world, they will be just as they were here. They will think, they will live their life. Their life in spirit is a lot like life here. A wonderful article written by Maurice Barbanel about life in the spirit world that I often put on my website, which is highly worth reading. It's no different, really. So yeah, that's what's communicating. The person's communicating, not any great oversoul or any great group consciousness or collective conscious. It's the individual mind. The mind that is your mind here, when it's freed of a body, is what will communicate from spirit. So I hope that answers the question. I hope. Yeah, you call them channelers. Again, channeling is not something we talk about a great deal in the UK. We don't have channelers in the UK. We have people who work at what I call through inspirational speaking, and then people who work in the light trance, medium trance, deep trance states. We don't really do channeling. So it's a very American thing, I'm sure. Did you have any challenges telling your family or friends about your mediumship skills? That's a good question. Mediums coming out the closet, you know, coming out as a medium. I'm a medium. So depending upon where you live, depending upon religious beliefs, depending upon how accepting certain people are around you to all of this, will determine how easy it is for you to come out as a medium. In my own case, some of my family were not accepting of it. My dad never really accepted it. He didn't want to hear me ever talk about it. Dad, mum's been through it. I'm not interested, son. When you're dead, you're dead. And one of my brothers is not particularly interested in it neither. A lot of my work colleagues wouldn't want anything to do with it. And some of them would. So again, you know, what happens is when you begin on this journey, this process, some people may pull away from you because you've gone a bit odd, you've gone a bit weird, and you'll draw towards you other people who are thinking similar, who want a similar energy, similar vibration, and that fits much better. And there's no right, there's no wrong. You've got to do it your way. Just like somebody deciding to come out as being gay, you've got to do it your own way in your own time. I'm not likening being a medium to being gay, but I'm just trying to explain that the essence of it has to be unique to the person. Absolutely. So did I have any challenges? Yeah, some. I think everybody does. I worked for an American company at the time I developed my mediumship, a very conservative with a small c American company. And I was like, if they find out that I'm a medium, I had visions of getting the sack. So, but eventually it was pretty clear this is the direction I was going to be going with my life. And I was getting to the point where I needed to go part-time, so I had to come out and tell them anyway. And actually, I was remarkably surprised that my boss, first thing she said is, great, can I have a reading? It's like, that's not the answer I expected. I expected more of a, whoa, you're weird. No, oh, that's really interesting. Any chance of a reading? So yeah, so it worked out a lot better than I thought. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes it happens. Okay, next one. Would you believe that mediumship can take a toll on health and that there can be increased incidence of diabetes, depression, etc., and mediums have retired for health reasons? Interestingly, no. No, I would say to that. One day I might do a lecture on mediumship and health. But basically, in simple terms, the only mediumship I believe that can take a toll on health is physical mediumship, because to create the physical phenomena, it uses aspects of the energy and the body, and ectoplasm is coming from the body of the medium, returning to the medium. So physical mediumship, yes, if it's not done under the correct circumstances, if it's not done with the respect it needs. You can't do physical mediumship all the time. There was, back in the day, rooms had to be kept scrupulously clean. There's a risk of things being reintroduced into the body of the medium if ectoplasm built in the room and went back to the medium. So physical mediumship, yes. There's also an idea that with physical mediumship, it depletes the sugar levels of the medium. The medium, therefore, has to have sugar afterwards. Gordon Higginson, after working in trance or physical, he always had a glass of orange juice to top up the sugar levels. So that's important to recognize. General trance, I don't really feel it particularly affects the sugar, no. I know a lot of mediums who develop bad health, but what I would say is I know a lot of mediums who are workaholics. I know a lot of mediums who are forever on the go doing mediumship and spiritual things. And a lot of mediums who don't exercise or eat well, everything goes hand in hand. The prevalence of diabetes in today's era is phenomenal. And a lot of it's food related. A lot of it is lack of exercise as well. And lifestyle choices. So I know a lot of mediums who make bad lifestyle choices. Do I believe it's the mediumship creates diabetes? No, I don't. Do I believe mediumship makes you ill? No. If there's a potential within people, a preponderance for a certain condition, or if the condition is there subtly already, Mediumship can exacerbate it, because remember, when you're developing mediumship, you're sensitizing self. So there is, for example, autoimmune conditions, which may be prevalent at a low level, may be enhanced when you do mediumship, because you've enhanced your sensitivity. Your sensitivity to all things increases, and hence autoimmune conditions. That's the only area that I think there's been evidence of that mediums suffer a little bit more with, is perhaps autoimmune conditions. Mediumship should not depress people. Mediumship should, in fact, give us a better outlook on life, help us to understand life more, should help us spiritualize ourselves, should help us to be more accepting of all sorts of people and all sorts of conditions. So it shouldn't affect our mental health in any way, in my view. It should do the reverse. It should make a more positive outlook. So yeah, I don't personally believe that mediumship takes any toll upon my health. If I thought mediumship, I have a lot of health conditions. I'm not going to get into what they are. I do have certain autoimmune conditions, and I have a lot of health conditions, which is one of the reasons I don't do a great deal of overseas travel or anything like that, because again, health-wise, it's not good for me. So, but I would not do mediumship if I thought it was going to make my health worse. I would not do mediumship if there was a potential it would shorten my life. No way. So I don't do physical mediumship. I don't really have a desire to do physical mediumship. That's the only area I think you've got to take care of your health with, physical mediumship. The rest, my trance work doesn't seem to affect my health at all. My healing, if anything, really helps. When you're a healer, we always say a bit sticks to the side of the tin. So in doing healing, you know, you're getting a bit of benefit from the healing energy yourself as the healer. The healing energy flows through you to the patient, a bit sticks to you as well. You get a bit of upliftment and a bit of help from that as well. So healing will definitely help you as well. But I know a lot of mediums who ultimately retire through health reasons, but a great deal of them keep going. Harry Edwards went on phenomenally long. Maurice Barbanel went on phenomenally long. So did Estelle Roberts. And Gordon Higginson worked till the very end. Yeah, he passed. He had a couple of strokes, and he didn't heed the advice of slowing down, to be honest. He kept going, and he passed the day after just working, serving churches and doing a weekend workshop. So he kept going to the very end. But generally, mediumship does not take any toll on health, in my view. Okay, next question. So I'm going to finish at 9 o'clock. No later than 9. So we're now getting limited. Susan, how can you tune in at one time and then it turns off, leaving you think you're chasing the wind? But I can't stop, as you know, it's true. Remember, mediumship is forever changing. We have to adapt to our mediumship. I did a class on 7 reasons why it feels your mediumship is getting worse. Check it out on the channel. And often we think it's getting worse when it's not. Often it's changing and we're failing to adapt to the change. But you've got to have solid foundations with your mediumship. If you build your mediumship without solid foundations, when the sands begin to shift, your mediumship will tumble like a pack of cards. Again, that is another reason I highly recommend my videos. Another reason I highly recommend my study program with all the modules to get a strong theoretical foundation, and the courses as well, because they will give you a fundamental strong foundation to build off of. If you don't do that, then what happens is you've mediumship works at one time and then it will fail and it won't work, and you won't know why. You can't manage the problems within mediumship because you don't know what they are. To be able to work well as a medium, we've got to understand when it changes, how we have to change to go with it. My mediumship class 8, managing problems within mediumship, I go through the most commonly encountered problems people find within their mediumship and give clues as to how to manage them and move them forward. So hopefully that all makes sense. Caroline, how do you stop being a leaky tap? Do you have to ask spirit to leave you alone, or do they know? Leaky taps lack discipline. What we mean by a leaky tap medium is someone who's always on, always looking for information, always trying to give information to people. It speaks massively about the needs of the individual. They're doing it for their own needs. Or you're so excited with all this stuff that you want to be doing it all the time because it's the excitement of it. Yay, I've got this new gift and I want to be using it. That's the desires of the individual. Spirit don't want you to give them to somebody in the supermarket queue or the person on the bus, on the train. No, you're trying to force it and create it. Simple, you've got to have discipline. There's a right time and a wrong time, and you work when it's the right time. You work at the right time in the right conditions. And if you don't, then what's going to happen is you're squandering your power. You're not going to develop power properly. You're not going to develop mediumship properly. So be strict. You don't have to tell spirit to not to come. They know not to come. It's only if you invite them to come, or you try and find somebody in the spirit world, that it's going to start working. So have the discipline to be either on or off. I don't, I'm teaching now. I wouldn't dream of making a link. In my day-to-day living, I wouldn't dream of making a link. When do I make a link? I make a link when I'm booked to do a service or booked to do a demonstration of mediumship. I make a link when I'm booked to do a sitting. I make a link when I'm in a teaching environment and I'm tuning into students. When I'm sitting with spirit, I may be aware of guides or helpers wishing to get inspiration to me. When I'm daydreaming, I may get inspiration from spirit. When I'm doing trance, clearly, I'm blending with spirit. Any other time is a no-no. I don't ever do it. Don't look for it. Don't want to do it. So we choose on, off. Leaky tap, we've turned it on a bit and we're letting it dribble out. And that's us. It's our needs. That's what I think. So yeah, channeling is not my cup of tea, I'm afraid. So I've seen quite a lot of channeling in my time, and give me a good trance medium any day of the week. So yeah. So I'm afraid if, you'll never hear me teach channeling. I don't do it. I don't do channeling myself. No interest in doing channeling. I would rather do trance. I would rather really get a blend from spirit. So yeah, I'm not a channeling medium. In the UK, we don't really do it. Yeah, there's channelers in the UK. I know that, but nah. Next question. Can guides be stubborn when someone doesn't want to do mediumship? No, guides are not stubborn at all. Why would they be? So think about it. Guides are spiritually evolved souls. So no one's going to force you to do anything you don't want to do. If you don't want to do mediumship, your guides don't care. They're not out of a job. They've got other things to do in the spirit world as well. You're not their sole attention. People think, oh, our guide is, oh no, I'm not developing. What's the guide doing? He's drumming his fingers saying, get on with it. But no, the guide's got plenty to do. They're not bothered. If you don't develop your mediumship when you're here, doesn't matter. Only person it matters to is you and your soul. It doesn't matter to the guides. The guides won't force you to do it. The guides won't keep badgering you to do it. It's your choice. They respect your choice. They might think it's a wasted opportunity or a missed opportunity. They might think if only they did it, it would help them. Just like you watching a child, one of your children. Often you see them doing things that they shouldn't be doing and you want to stop them. And you want to get involved. But when you learn to detach, it's like they've got to go their own path. They've got to do their own thing. They've got to learn for themselves. They've got to gain their own experiences to understand life and learn. And it's the same with the guides. If they want to learn mediumship and work with it, brilliant. If they don't, there's another time in the future they can do it. It's not a problem. So guides, I don't think will do that. No. Next question. Would you consider that spiritual development could lead to developing food intolerances? No. Not spiritual development. Because spiritual development is about developing the spiritual qualities within. It's got nothing to do with food at all whatsoever. Would developing your sensitivity, enhancing your sensitivity through developing your psychic and mediumistic awareness, could that potentially affect food intolerances? Yes, I believe it could. For the same reasons that it could affect things like autoimmune responses, which are sensitivities. The reason being is you're developing your sensitivity, you're developing, if you like, you're turning the volume up to become aware of the spirit world, to become aware of unseen influences, to become aware of fleeting glimpses of clairvoyance or fleeting sensations of clairsentience. You have to really turn the volume up on your sensitivity and your awareness, but it also turns up the sensitivity on so many other things in your life. My tolerance to alcohol went down dramatically when I began developing. My tolerance to things like fireworks and explosions. I couldn't go to a firework display anymore. No more. The energy would affect me so badly. So our sensitivity to energies in rooms, if you go into a pub and it's a dodgy pub or a dodgy bar, the energy in there is like, whoa, you've enhanced your sensitivity to all energies. it makes sense then that if you have an intolerance to food, or you have a sensitivity to something that could trigger autoimmune conditions, that those sensitivities are enhanced. And I would argue in my own case, my autoimmune conditions have become stronger, become worse as I've developed my mediumship. So, but it was always there. Mediumship didn't create it. It was always there. I always had it. However, flare-ups are more frequent. Flare-ups occur within autoimmune conditions, and it's like sensitivity. We have to learn to really manage our stress levels, manage our health, be very tuned into ourselves, do appropriate relaxation, all of that. As mediums, we have to take care of self. Far too many mediums I know do not put enough time into nurturing and self-care. It's important. We have to do it. But interesting question. Susan, you're asking, how do you know the difference? But I'm not sure which question that related to. But it doesn't matter. I can't answer it without further queries, but we're running out of time, I'm afraid, so it doesn't matter. Maya, are some in spirit on the other side better able to communicate through mediums than others? Yes, absolutely. Are some here better communicators than others? Yes. If you went to a dinner party and you're sat next to someone who's really lively, great personality, full of energy, full of joy, easy to communicate with, you're sat next to somebody who's incredibly painfully shy, doesn't speak unless spoken to, they're hard to get communication from. It's the same in the spirit world. Personalities will determine how easy they find it to communicate. How often they've communicated before will determine how easy it is to communicate through a medium. They have to learn to do it. If they've done it regularly, they can be great communicators. If it's their first time, it can be a bit of a challenge. So it's the same thing. Absolutely. Some communicate well, some don't. And Caroline, channelers, have you ever had a conversation with an alien or other dimensional beings? Had to ask, absolutely not, no. Do I believe that there are aliens and other dimensional beings? My jury's out. But the thing is, do I communicate with them? No. Do I think some people think they're communicating with other dimensional beings when they're not? Absolutely. Do I think people are communicating with aliens when they're not? Absolutely. It depends upon your belief system. You know, in the spirit world, we have spirits. Are they aliens? No, of course not. They're just souls. They're just souls that have gained experiences. We'd be pretty crazy to believe this Earth is the only world in which you can gain experience. When we look at a universe as vast as it is, which is incomprehensible in terms of the number of planets, stars, scale, vastness. We only know one solar system and we know one inhabited planet. There must be other inhabited planets just through purely looking at what we know of. So there must be other worlds where you can gain experience. But if somebody is in another world and is a lot like a human being here, are they an alien? Not necessarily. Are they a multidimensional being? Not necessarily. Again, the idea of the multidimensional being is a bit odd. Are they just, I won't say a human being, but are they just a spiritual being having spiritual experiences? Yes. So I accept that other worlds exist. There are worlds within worlds. I accept that. I believe that. But I don't believe my guide's an alien. And even if they had an experience in another world, they wouldn't necessarily come to me and tell me they're an alien. It wouldn't help us. No, they portray themselves as we need them to portray themselves to make sense here. So that, I hope that helps you. I hope that makes sense. And so yeah, if anyone tells you you've got an alien guide, then yeah, right. How do they know? How can they tell? You can't. But, you know, there's a great deal of the channeling stuff and the Pleiades or whatever you call it. And, you know, I don't know, that none of that really fits for me. I don't get that. I don't get that. I don't do portals. I don't go to interdimensional galactic beings. I don't do any of that, I'm afraid. Again, remember, keep it simple, keep it down to earth, keep it practical, get rid of the fluff, get rid of the nonsense. If it doesn't help you, don't go there. Our spirit guides would never portray any of that to us, because how would it help us? It doesn't. They bring forward qualities. They bring forward themselves as a person, as a being, as a human being. That's how they portray themselves. And I believe that all guides have to have spent time upon the earth to understand the human condition, to be qualified qualified to work with us here, they have to have spent time here. They have to understand what it's like to be within the physical body, within the human form. So I don't believe, even if there were beings who lived on other planets, they wouldn't be your guides, because they're not really well qualified if they haven't experienced the Earth. So I hope that that makes sense. So we have pretty much come to time. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Remember, you can, if you've not subscribed to the channel, do so. If you've enjoyed this, do hit the like button. I can see how many likes they are, and there's not enough. So hit the like button if you enjoyed this. If you want to make a donation, remember, you can do that through PayPal Me. All donations are gratefully received. Again, you can donate through Super Chat in these dying seconds if you wish. But it's always a pleasure to come online and to offer my words of wisdom, to share my knowledge. I hope that it helps you to understand this topic of mediumship and development. I hope it helps you not to have the fluff. So do remember to subscribe to the channel. As I say, lots of good videos coming out in the next month. The last in the Sit in the Power series, more on children in spirit, and there'll also be this talk about looking at mediumship from the point of view of spirit, which I think is incredibly powerful. So there's quite a lot of exciting stuff. Do share the channel, let people know about it, because the more that get experience of good quality teaching, of understanding what it's really about, the better. So I'm going to say thank you to all of you for coming this evening, for being a part of this, for joining me in the live chat. And the next one will be in June. Next live Q&A will be on Wednesday, the 30th of June. I'm actually on holiday for 2 weeks at the end of June, so that is the day after I get back. So I'll squeeze one in just at the end of June on Wednesday the 30th. If you can make that one, I will see you then. But if not, take care, and I shall look forward to seeing you all again in the next one. Bye for now.